Dad's going to tell you guys about how he met my mom, your grandmother.
I met your grandmother on a blind date. She was a substitute blind date.
I heard this.
And that was on Memorial Day of 1950. And in 2 weeks after we met, we got engaged. We were walking along Jamaica Avenue in New York, and she saw a ring in the window, and it was a zircon ring, which is not a real diamond. And it was big. It was only $9.95. We got engaged with a $9.95 ring. And 2 weeks after that, I had to ship out and go on not a med cruise, but a midshipman cruise to Quebec. I came back in July, and in the end of August, we ran away to get married, but we didn't have enough time in Elkton, Maryland, because we had to stay there 3 days and my ship was pulling out for the Mediterranean.
Now, why did you go to Elkton?
Wait.
Because that was the marriage center of the country. At that time, you could get married, we thought, in 1 day, but they had changed the rules. When we got there, it was 3 days, and we didn't have 3 days. So I took her back to New York, and then I left to go back to pick my ship up in Virginia. And when I came back, and we made, while I was gone, and in corresponding, we decided we'd get married on when I returned, and we set the date for January 13th, because that was the day we could get the hall at the American Legion Post in Ozone Park for our reception. And we got married January 13th, 1951, shortly after she turned 17.
Wait, so you guys ran away from your family?
No, her mother and father knew. In fact, they encouraged it.
No.
That's
So-
how, that's our story.
So tell Sarah how fancy the reception was.
Fancy. The reception was very plain. It was in American Legion Hall, and her family sat on one side of the tables, and my family sat on the other side.
Why?
The reason being that they were Catholic, and my family was Jewish. And in those days, you didn't intermarry like they do today. Now they interracially marry. So it was like a tug of war.
And what did you have for your food?
Basically, we had cold cuts on a buffet style.
Coconuts.
Yeah, you know, ham and corned beef.
Did you have a caterer?
No,
Who made the food?
the American Legion women
Okay.
prepared the, just like they do, like at the firehouse here.
Okay. And then after you got married, where'd you go on your honeymoon?
We ended up in New York City. And we only stayed a couple of days because I had to go back and get the ship because we were changing home port from Norfolk back to New York.
Oh, that's good.
And shortly after that, when we got back to New York, I got off the ship. We went to Washington, D.C. so I could go to school at Bethesda Naval Medical Center.
And what did you go to school for?
To design teeth. But that was so I could get off the ship. And once I got to school, I decided I wasn't interested in being a prosthetic technician. So I was able to get out. And I went back to New York for duty, in Brooklyn, New York, at the Naval Dental Clinic there. Stayed there a year and a half, And then we got transferred to the West Coast. I had to pick up a ship, and I went from there, West Coast, over to Korea.
And how long were you in Korea?
From March of '53 until September of '53.
Did you see any
Now,
action?
the armistice was called in July of '53. We stayed over a couple extra months. In fact, we were on our way from Sasebo,